Wheels are one of the most important parts of a mountain bike, and the harder you ride, the more important that becomes. And if you look up online what the best mountain bike wheels are, not only are you going to be choosing a brand, but you're also going to be choosing a material. You're probably already familiar with aluminum wheels. They come stock on most mountain bikes, but you're also going to find carbon wheels, like those from my sponsor, Noble Wheels, which you can check out down in the description. I have a link right to their website. And if you're like me a few years ago, you're probably wondering what carbon wheels even are and why would someone ride them? So let's go through the differences between carbon and aluminum wheels today, and I'm going to talk to you about my experience riding my Noble carbon wheels. And I think after that, you're going to have a pretty good idea of why I ride these wheels on all my bikes. Now, it is important to note that not all carbon wheels are going to feel and look the same. Each brand is going to have its own sort of personality. So this video is going to be specific to my experience, and since I've only really ridden Noble carbon wheels, specific to them. So let's get started. There are really three main parts to the wheel. There's the hub, the spokes, and the rim. Now, we're basically going to ignore the hub and the spokes because those are more or less interchangeable between all the mountain bikes. And what we're really going to focus on is the rim, because that's the part of the bike, well, the part of the wheel, that's going to change material. That's the part we're referring to when we say aluminum or carbon wheels. We really mean aluminum or carbon rims. Now, one of the things that I get questions about a lot, and a lot of people notice about my bike, is the Noble TR37s have sort of a sine wave pattern on the rim. And that's sort of one of the first advantages to carbon. The design constraints are a lot looser, and that's what's really piqued the interest of disciplines like road riding, because you can shape the rim into sort of these aerodynamic shapes, or you can shape them to have different feels, different compliance in different directions, and you can really tune the feel of the wheel, and that's exactly what Noble Wheels has done. They've created a wheel that has compliance where you want it, maybe a bit of vertical compliance to make a softer ride, and stiffness where you want it. Sort of that lateral stiffness that gives you the pop out of the corner. And that's all possible because the rims are made of carbon and they can design it how they want. And the best part about it is you can do all of this while maintaining strength and most of the time reducing weight. And that leads me to the next difference between carbon and aluminum rims. It's the ride feel. Now this one's going to be super subjective, and this is just going to be my experience. I think a lot of you have seen my videos, you know how I ride, what I like to ride, so I think in that context, it'll hopefully all make sense. Now probably the most immediate difference that I could feel was in the corners. Once I put the carbon wheels on, I could tell as soon as I hit a corner, there was just a lot more support. And as a heavier rider, I think this effect is quite amplified. Probably the best analogy I can think of is you can imagine running on something like a hard packed dirt ground. That's going to be the carbon wheel with just a nice stiff level of support versus running on something like beach sand where the sand is kind of giving away a little bit. And that's how I felt with some of these looser aluminum wheels that just didn't have as much stiffness as I'd like. Versus when I got the carbon wheels on, I just felt a nice amount of support that allowed me to push into the corner, and then it would push back and allow me to zip along. The difference isn't as extreme as those two examples, but that should give you a pretty good idea of how it felt to switch from aluminum wheels to the carbon ones. And I was thinking about it, and I think there are a few types of riders where I think this effect is going to be very noticeable. First, it's riders like me who try and go fast, but are heavier. You know, we've got a lot of mass, you go into a corner, you know, there's a lot of force pushing at that wheel that wants it to bend. So if you're a heavier rider and you're cornering and you want more support, I think carbon wheels are a really good option. Another one is riders who are just really fast. And I think what's really interesting here is if we look at the equation for centrifugal force, you know, that force you feel as you're going around a corner, that's mv squared over r, which means as the mass increases as you're going around the corner, that's going to put more force on your wheels. But as the velocity increases as you go around the corner, that's going to increase the force exponentially. So double the mass, double the force, but double the speed, you get 4 times as much force. So if you're a heavier rider like me, I think you're definitely going to notice this effect of carbon wheels. But if you're a fast rider as well, you're also putting a ton of force in these wheels, and you're probably going to notice that lateral stiffness. And this effect is even more amplified if you ride 29ers like me, because torque, so we're spinning around the hub, and the wheels are, well, they're 29 inches in diameter, give or take. So they're a little bit further than 27.5-inch wheels. And so you're just increasing that torque even more with these big wheels. Again, that's all really going to combine and allow you to feel that lateral stiffness of carbon wheels. The next difference that I felt is carbon wheels seem to have a more damped feeling. It's a bit hard to explain, but the best analogy I could think of was it's like having a really short suspension bike that has just very nicely tuned suspension. When I ride aluminum wheels, they're definitely a lot softer, they're more compliant, they're like a longer travel, but with sort of less properly tuned suspension. Than with carbon wheels, that's like a short travel, zippy bike with just finely tuned, nicely damped suspension. And this is where Noble Wheels' sine wave pattern comes in. They've really finely tuned that damping in the vertical compliance to feel pretty great. And it's hard to explain, so I guess you'll just have to try some yourself. But what really sold me on carbon wheels was their strength and their lack of maintenance. I've dented so many aluminum rims, and I've had to have them replaced a bunch of times, and I've blown tons of spokes on aluminum rims, and after a while it just gets really expensive and really annoying. I had Noble TR38 carbon rims on my Specialized Enduro for a whole year, and I only had to replace one spoke one time because I ran it into a tree. I also have the Noble TR38s on my downhill bike, and I ride in the park all the time. Still true as ever, haven't done anything to them. On my Evil Reckoning here, I have the Noble TR37s, and again, I've only had to replace spokes because, well, I ran them into a tree again. I might have a problem with running into trees. But besides that, I haven't done any regular maintenance. They're still as true as the day I got them, and they're running great. And I imagine they're gonna run great for quite a few years. And when you pair that with a lifetime warranty that Noble offers, I think it makes a lot of sense of why I'm running carbon wheels. So to reiterate, carbon wheels are stiffer where you want them, offer a more damped feeling, and they're going to be stronger and require a lot less maintenance. Now, carbon wheels aren't for everyone. If you don't feel like you want stiffer wheels, then getting stiffer wheels probably isn't going to be a good thing. And if you're the type of person who doesn't notice all the little things that might be wrong with your bike, maybe your brake levers aren't aligned, or if you've ever left your shock in the firm position, ridden down the trail and didn't notice, then, well, you might not notice the nuanced difference between carbon and aluminum wheels. But if you're anything like me, carbon wheels were a no-brainer, and they're definitely going to be on my next bike. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.